And maybe that's a good way to jump into this discussion because you know what got people up in arms? Mike Elias's comments just the other day. And I know the Orioles came out of the break a little bit slow. Lost that series in Tampa. They're trying to fight back in Cleveland. And Mike Elias went on MLB radio on Sirius XM and talked about what the Baltimore Orioles plans would be. So let's play this clip for you guys. And if you're new to the channel, hit that like and subscribe button. And then we're going to react here on the other side.
Here today talking, and we're 11 games under 500. It's been a huge disappointment. I mean, I've talked about it the last couple of weeks. None of us wanted to be here, expected to be here. There's a number of reasons for it, and we're taking account of how we got here. But the reality is when we're at that point in the standings and 11 days away from the trade deadline, you know, we've got to be realistic about our situation. And the conversations that I'm having right now are more oriented towards seeing what's out there for some of our available major league players. And, you know, we're not blowing up the team. And we think we're going to be very good again in 2026 and have that intention. And, you know, we're not interested in changing the foundation of the team, but to the degree that we have players that interest other guys or other clubs that are coming towards the end of their contract, we got to listen to that. So that's what we're spending our time on. You know, you talk about everything, you listen to everything, you explore opportunities, but we're trending in that direction right now, and it's not what we want to be doing.
So Mike Elias made it clear they're going to explore the option for the expiring contract. So Kevin or Zach, if you don't mind pulling up the list of expiring contracts, can one of you guys do that real quickly when we have this conversation? Because let's just get the whole picture here. The Baltimore Orioles, as we know, they've shown flashes of could they get back into it? And right when you think they're getting back into it, they feel like they take a step back or they stay in neutral. And I'm going to pull up the standings here as we are discussing this today. It is July 22nd, okay? And the Baltimore Orioles are trying to fight back into the wild card picture, especially with, when you look at it, it's very competitive and very competitive in their own division. But here's the standings, okay? Right there. So here's the wild card standings at the current moment. The Baltimore Orioles sit 8.5 games out, 11 games under 500. And if you look at the top, the Yankees, 10 games over 500, Seattle, 6 games over, and then Boston is tied for that third and final wild card spot, 6 games over 500, right? And then in front of them still, Tampa Bay Rays, the Texas Rangers, the Guardians who the Orioles are playing, Angels, Royals, Twins. So it's a heavy and steep hill that the Orioles are going to have to climb here. And when you're looking at the Orioles roster, I want to emphasize this. Mike did say he's exploring the expiring contracts, but nucleus of the team, they're not going to blow up. And what I took from that is they're not looking at any of the key pieces. Jordan Westberg, Kowser, Rutschman, Henderson, Holiday. You know, you can make a case if you think some of the expiring guys are a part of the core, but right now they're probably not, just from how it's playing out. So I think that gives the context first, at least about where the plan is. So it's not about the guys that they plan for the future. So I think Felix Bautista is in that conversation. Trevor Rogers, Dean Kramer. I don't think any of those guys are at the forefront of being moved by Mike Elias. But Zach, do you have that list that we could run with?
Yeah. Let me pull it up right now. Now, some of these expiring deals do end up having, obviously, some sort of option. So that's going to be Tyler O'Neill, Andrew Kittredge, and Ramon Laureano have options. The rest of these are guys, and then Sagano is also right below here. But
so that's a long list. Now, the Ramon Laureano option and Tyler O'Neill is a player option, club option for Ramon.
Yep. $6.5 million.
The value for that, Ramon's value is probably one of the highest of the Baltimore Orioles. And we'll get into the trade targets in general. But if you're Baltimore here, And Zach, I can start with you and we'll go around the horn. Yeah, Charlie Morton, it's been great to see. If a team wants Charlie, you got to explore the option. Bullpen arms are going to be extremely valuable. And I mean, we're not even talking about on this list, right, Zach? I mean, Sir Anthony Dominguez, I believe, would also be on this list.
Yeah, so he's right up here with his extension that goes through this year. So
that's another one, right? I think that the Orioles have so much talent that teams are going to want, even though they might not be playing up to their standard. Teams want big league talent, Zach, and the Orioles have a heck of a lot of it. That is going to be more than likely the majority are not going to be in Baltimore next year.
Yeah, and I actually just put out a tweet. Funny enough that we just talked about it, and actually, yeah. So Sir Anthony's he had a club option this past year, so he is a free agent officially. I wanted to clear that up this upcoming year. I think, honestly, a guy like Sir Anthony is going to be a massive target for teams. And in all honesty, weirdly enough, I think Sir Anthony and Charlie Morton might be the guys that get the most for you if you're Baltimore, because Sir Anthony's having an incredible season. Unfortunately for him, it's kind of being, I don't want to say downplayed by the fact that the Orioles aren't winning a lot of games, but it kind of is. You don't talk about relievers on losing teams mostly. Those aren't the guys that get the spotlight. Hell, even Felix Bautista, who's having an incredible year, people are like, is he really having that great of a year? Yeah.
Yes.
If you watch him, he's having that great of a year. Just because he doesn't have 40 saves already, like, he's getting the job done when his number's called. Oh, by the way, he's also fresh off Tommy John doing this. So I think Sir Anthony's going to give you a lot of value. And I mean, the list, it's not just a bunch of guys that I think contending teams look at as add-ons. I think some of these guys can help contending teams. Sir Anthony Dominguez, Gregory Soto, even though I know people here feel weirdly, every other day is different with Gregory Soto. It's a power lefty out of the pen. That's a lot. That can fetch you a lot. I think that people aren't necessarily, it's not going to get any top 100 prospects, but I think that there's a lot more value in these Orioles players than people truly understand. I think Sir Anthony can get you a nice little package. I think so could Charlie Morton. I think so could Gregory Soto. But I think, like you said, that's where it's got to stop. Like, unless the trade package literally comes through and I pass out from excitement, I don't think you trade Felix. I don't think you trade those guys. It has to be, I'll be honest, now a much bigger scale, obviously. The same sort of thing with Baker. I don't think they were shopping Baker. I think Tampa Bay called them and were like, hey, we'll give you the 37th pick this Sunday. And they were like, okay, did not think we were getting that for Baker. So do I think they're going to should shop Bautista? No. But if a team calls you on July 30th, July 31st, and they're like, hey, we'll give you these top prospects because we need this guy. We're desperate. Time's ticking. The Phillies, the Mets, they miss out on someone. They're like, hey, we need this guy to be the difference maker. And they give you a deal that you can't refuse. That's one thing. But you can't just make trades to make trades. There's got to be the value received back.
Yeah, it's all value-based, right, Kevin? Yeah. And when you've watched this, and whether people like or not what's happened in the past with Mike Elias, first off, I know the ones that want to say for this past year, you're right. You can look at the construction, the organization, the infrastructure of what's happened. It's going to fall on leadership. So yes, he's going to take a lot of pressure, but also you can't discredit of what's happened over the last 3 seasons in Baltimore, right? They got to try to figure some things out, but here we are. And for this deadline, and if you're looking at players, and you just mentioned, Zach, about a lot of different options, I don't think that we're going to see the top name like Felix Bautista go, or any big names. But Kev, I think that guys like Sir Anthony, I mean, heck, I know Cedric Mullins is not the numbers wise, maybe where people were expecting, but I think that why fans in Baltimore might not value Cedric as much. I can tell you one thing, because I've watched it, I've listened to it. Teams value these outfielders. I mean, heck, remember last year, Austin Hayes was not playing very well. And the Phillies still made a trade for him. And guess what? Hayes, I know he's been injured. He's gone off and played pretty well somewhere else. So it's a constant conversation. And I think for all the problems that people want to blame Mike Elias for, I think fans would be even more infuriated if Mike didn't do his job in this case and see what's out there, because then you're snowballing a problem already into a disappointing 100 games of the 2025 season.
Yeah, I think that you have to, I mean, you owe it to everybody if you're Mike Elias to go out there and see, especially when, you know, not all of these guys are going to be back in Baltimore if you keep them. Like, they're not going to, in my opinion, bring back every single guy that's on an expiring contract. And to me, I think the big factor with the Orioles is that you can get back little packages, nice packages for these guys. It's not going to be all world guys coming back, but you know, you have to look towards the future at this point, especially, you know, you brought up the standings, talked about where the Orioles are at this point in the season, and they've just kind of been hovering. I mean, they are not in the 18 under 500 anymore, but they've really been hovering like 12 to 9 games under 500 for a while now. And you think they're going to have a breakthrough, and then all of a sudden they lose 2 of 3, or they, you know, lose 4 of 5. And so at this point, not only trading veterans, that helps by getting back packages. I think it also helps see what you have maybe in the lower parts of your system, like bringing up guys from AAA if you move off of an O'Hearn, giving guys other opportunities. And, you know, I know we'll talk about Kobe Mayo a little bit later in the show, but he's an example. Maybe you bring back up Heston Kjerstad and you play him and see if, you know, he can put us together towards the end of the season. Mm-hmm. So it's not just about, okay, trade these guys, get packages, get guys back. And, you know, we can have different conversations about what those packages should look like or what would be considered successful. Is that a guy that can help you in 2026, or is it more so a lower level prospect or two that can maybe hit for you in a couple of years? But I think the other underlying storyline is not just about moving off of guys to get back players. It's also about giving other younger players opportunities, and what I am now chalking up to a lost season. You can still have a lost season benefit you in certain ways. And I think one of the ways the Orioles can maybe, you know, turn lemons into lemonade is seeing what you have. And I think that moving off of guys that are contributing to that logjam, and not just trading them to trade them. Don't just like trade Ryan O'Hearn for, you know, some random one prospect and be done with it and it's not good value. Get value for him, but also use that spot to see what young guys have in your organization.
And that's probably where the biggest question is going to lie here. And I think the bigger questions, and I think you're exactly right, Kevin, this is what you have to do. You have to do this. You have to see what can help bolster your organization. But here's the bigger thing that people aren't talking about is I don't care what trades you make, which two things we know. Injuries are going to happen in baseball, and when you have your top guys injured, it's going to make an impact. I'm not going to excuse that. However, whoever comes into your organization, they got to fit what you want to do. They got to fit your identity. And the biggest issue for me for the Orioles going forward is, what is your identity going to be? Because I can argue right now, and I've said this on the show, and I know people want to say, Ryan, you're a homer, you're biased. Well, actually, I'm very realistic when it comes to the fundamentals of the game. The Orioles, with their faults, are as bad as they are because fundamentally they haven't been good enough. Not because they've been lacking talent. What happened yesterday against the Guardians in Game 1? You get off to a good start. You can't get a shutdown inning. Okay, that's part of it. You had 2 errors in the game, and you could say, well, it only led to 1 earned run. Errors are errors. The Orioles, a team that 2 years ago when they won the most games in the American League in the regular season, were top 6 in fielding percentage. They are in the bottom tier of fielding percentage this year. That taxes your pitching staff. What happened at the end of the game in Game 1 against the Guardians? The big inning at the end is what doomed the Orioles. It's always one big inning, a couple plays, and that's fundamental baseball. The Baltimore Orioles aren't the only team that's snake-bitten with injuries. I think that's the other part I want to get out of here. Yes, you are going to lose key players. But if you look around Major League Baseball, a lot of teams have lost key players. So whatever happens here, the identity of your ball club with who you make deals for has to be completely sound and concrete. And we're not fully going to get that answer, Kevin, Zach, until 2026, right? Because I don't think that's going to shift by the end of this year. But when you make the moves, and we'll save that for a different time, the Orioles need to figure out who they want to be as they try to contend to win a World Series. Because right now, what they are and the identity, that's not going to be good enough. And I would say a team that's very similar right now is the Atlanta Braves. Atlanta Braves have a lot of talent. They've had a lot of injuries, but they have been a team that's underperformed as well and are kind of trying to right the ship. And in Baltimore, we know the American League East is not getting any easier. And that could be for a whole different discussion. But Baltimore, number one is see what you can get. But then the bigger thing, which is number two, figure out what it means to play the Oriole way again. And that's going to help separate what you want to be to get back to bringing a World Series to Baltimore. And that hasn't been done in 42 years.